Do you want to become the best server in your restaurant? Do you want to maximize your tips? Do you want to give the best service that your guests can ever experience? Well, this video is right for you. In this video, I'm going to give you the exact 10 steps of service that I personally use and practice to making the guest experience perfect. Welcome to my channel. My name is Rio from Rio Worldwide, bridging Filipino and American culture. In today's video, I'm going to share with you the exact 10 steps that I personally practice that enables me to receive the Employee of the Month award, that enables me to maximize my tips, and also enables me to give the best experience that my guests could ever experience. By the way guys, this is a series of videos, so if you haven't watched the part 1, I will link it down below. I also put it here in the card so you guys can just click it. But anyway, I am very excited to share with you the 10 exact steps. So without further ado, let's now jump into the video. Okay, disclaimer guys before we start that not every restaurant practice these exact steps of service, okay? Because each restaurant has a different kinds of service. Like for example, if you are serving in the beach or in the pool area, you are not practicing this. You are just basically giving the menu, taking the orders, and just asking, how was the food and all of that stuff, but not really this very detailed service. Because I think this kind of steps of service is more of like in an upscale restaurant. But also if you just wanted to become the best server that you can be, and will give your guests the best experience, then I highly suggest to follow these steps of service. So now let's start with the first step, which is greet your guests. Once you saw the guests that they are already seated, go to them immediately. Don't wait for another 2 minutes for them to look at the menu. So they know that they have a server immediately, and you have like a better service to offer because wow, we just seated and we are greeted already, so that is already a plus point. So number 1 that you need to do is introduce your name. Now this is very important because if they know your name, it's easy for them to recall, to request for you when they come back again to your restaurant, or they can recommend you to your manager if you really did a good job, and also will mention your name when they give a good review in the TripAdvisor or in the guest service experience. So that is really important for them to know your name. Second is offer them a drink or food menu if the host haven't give them, but usually the host will give them the food and drink menu already. The next is mention your special for today. Either it's a drink or a food special for today, but if you guys don't have any, then that's not a problem at all. But also ask them if they want to start with water. Now you might be thinking, or if you read the steps of service in Google, usually they will tell you to take a drink order, but sometimes, especially if that is your first time or if the guest first time to your restaurant, they do not know what they want. So make sure while they're looking at the wine menu, it's not awkward. Ask them, would you like to start with water? Now, some of the restaurants, they just offer, just flat water or just a regular water. But in our restaurant, we wanted to, like upsell or give the guest an option. So if I offer or if I ask them, would you like to start with water? They will say yes, and I will ask them, would you like Pellegrino or just the regular water? Because Pellegrino is a sparkling water and the other one's like flat. You're just basically asking them if they want like sparkling water or the regular water or the flat water, you know what I mean? So those are the kind of water that you need to be familiarized with. So once you give them their water, you can now proceed to step 2 of service, which is take their drink order. Now especially if you are working on dinner, usually they will get wine or beer, it depends of what are the what you are offering in your drink menu. Also, while taking their drink order, you can also ask them if this is their first time in your restaurant or where are they from, especially if you're working in a resort, because most of the time your guests will be tourists. So it's nice to have like building a connection and asking them where they from, because most of the time I guess, especially I'm not American and I don't look like an American, so they will ask me, where are you from? So that is something to start the conversation with, and you are building already the connection, because that is very important, building a connection with your guests. Third step, deliver their drink order, and the fourth step is take their food orders. Now if you think that they are hesitating or they are still having a confusion of which one to order, suggest what is your favorite dish in the menu so they can have an idea. And also, if they ask you questions, about certain food, give them your honest feedback, because your honesty, is very important for the guests, and also will determine your tips. Another tip, guys, is that when you are taking an order from your guests, start with appetizer, then proceed to the main course. But usually, if you're working lunchtime, usually they don't ask for, or they don't order appetizer, but always make sure to offer them appetizer, because never assume in this food and beverage department, or if you're as a server, never assume what the guest will feel. Always ask them, always verify. After you took their orders, always ask them at the end if they have any food allergies, because as a server, it is your responsibility to ask them if they have any allergies, because sometimes they are not aware, or they're not really paying attention to the ingredients or what is in the food that they're ordering, and sometimes they have like a peanut allergy. So it's always better to ask them. And once you confirm if they have allergies or doesn't have any allergies, it's now time to repeat all of their orders. So always make sure to double check with your guests everything that you have written down in the paper, just to make sure that you guys are on the same page, and you guys you didn't miss anything, or they didn't double order. This is one way of helping also your guests, and also just to save yourself, because when you enter the wrong food, especially if it's busy, the people from the kitchen might get mad at you, or you might encounter some problems. So just to avoid future problems, always double check with your guests. So number 5 is deliver the food. Now, if they order appetizer, of course you want to serve that first, and then once they are almost finished with their appetizer, you can now fire the food. So after they are done, you can clear the dirty plates first, and then deliver the main entry or the main dishes. Every time you deliver the food in their table, after 2 minutes, or they call it 2-bite check, after 2 minutes, go back to their table and ask them how was the food, if they need anything else, maybe they need salt and pepper, or maybe they need ketchup or any utensils or extra napkins. Always go back after 2 minutes or the 2-bite check, you know what I mean, just to make sure that your guest is having a good time and enjoying their food. Step 7, if they are done with their appetizer, they are done with their main course, now it's time to clear the table. Clear all the dirty plates. Now, take note, guys, that this is not just, you're not gonna clear only the plates when it's step 7, or it's, you know what I mean? Like, every time that you see a dirty plates, always clear it from the table. Now, most of the time, if your restaurant or if your hotel, where you're working to has an assistant server, it is their job to clear the table. But, if you think that the assistant server is also busy, help them. As a server, you also need to clear the table, and all the dirty plates from your guests, because it is your responsibility to, don't just like put everything with your assistant server. Another tip is that while clearing the table, so it's not like awkward silence, ask them how was the food, where are they from if you haven't asked them, and also how was their experience during your stay here, in their resort, or is this your first time in your resort, how was it, how can you make it better, or how can you give them a better experience, because that is something that will really sticks to their minds, that you really care. It's now time to offer them the dessert menu. Now, never assume that they are already full. Always offer the dessert menu, even if you think that they are full. And also, explain to them which one is your favorite, because that is one way for you to upsell. And not only that, because sometimes even the guests are full, they love to hear the menu, or they just love to hear the dessert, even though they're not gonna order, because that's like I'm that kind of guest, you know what I mean? But it's not like just only me, but most of the people, they want to hear the desserts because they are curious, or they just would love to try it, especially if they are not from your place, they just want to try local stuff. So I highly recommend to always offer local stuff, because that's what they really intrigued to. Step 8 is take their dessert order, their coffee or tea order, because sometimes if it's, especially if it's cold, sometimes most of the guests will take coffee as their dessert. So step 9 is dropping the bill to your guests, or offering the check to your guests. Now, ask them first if they are ready for check, especially if you're in an upscale restaurant. Don't just give them the bill, because that's kind of like rude, and we don't really practice it. Again, it depends on your company rules. That's why I highly suggest to watch the first video first, so you'll better understand if this is your first time working in the restaurant or in the hotel. And the last but not the least is thank your guests before they leave, because if you really did a good job, they will always remember you and request you another time when they visit your restaurant, or recommend you to your manager. So always make sure that they know your name so they can mention you in the GSS. And that's all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and comment down below if you have any questions or suggestions. Next week, we will be having new video again to give you more tips on how to become the best server that you can ever be. So if you guys are interested, make sure to subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell so you'll always be notified whenever we upload new Jackpack videos. And while waiting for that video, make sure to click these two videos right here. I make a lot of J1 videos and American culture that is for sure will help you with your journey here in the United States. That's all for today, guys. Thank you so much. Bye for now.